Ahoy there! Do you want to go over 15 mind-blowing facts about a sponge that lives in a pineapple under the sea? I can't hear you! No, seriously, I can't hear you. We don't have that kind of tech. Anyway, we thought we'd take a trip down to Bikini Bottom and check out 15 facts that you probably didn't know about the mighty Spongebob Squarepants, so let's take a look. You'd be hard-pressed to find anyone who doesn't know the name Spongebob Squarepants, but the resident of Bikini Bottom almost had a very different name. Okay, it wasn't that different, but originally, the character was called Spongeboy Squarepants, and the title of the show was going to be Spongeboy Ahoy. Spongeboy, who had originally been more of an amorphous shape during his early days, was similar to the square sponge that we know now, but instead had a green, red, and blue baseball cap and an even goofier expression than normal. However, the show's creator, Stephen Hillenburg, ran into an issue as the name was already trademarked by a mop company, although that company has seemingly disappeared without a trace, so had to change the name to, you guessed it, SpongeBob. There have been some Easter eggs and references to the original name in the show though, such as the Squeaky Boots episode where Mr. Krabs shouts out "Spongeboy me Bob" as he enters the office. SpongeBob is known for his childlike and naive personality, and as Hillenburg puts it, he's not quite an adult and he's not quite a kid, so there were multiple characters that were used as inspiration when searching for the voice and personality of SpongeBob. When discussing the character with SpongeBob's voice actor Tom Kenny, Hillenburg said that Jerry Lewis, Stan Laurel, and Pee Wee Herman were all references and the go-to people to model the character after. Kenny and Hillenburg went even further with their inspirations for the character, incorporating aspects of Charlie Brown and even the Munchkins from Wizard of Oz into the personality of SpongeBob, and somehow, Kenny pulled that off pretty easily. SpongeBob might have this young and naive personality, but he's actually a lot older than you might expect. In fact, SpongeBob's birth date is actually July 14th, 1986, meaning that he'll be celebrating his 35th birthday this year and is closer to middle age than he is to being a teenager, which is a crazy thought. SpongeBob's best bud Patrick is a little older, with him now aged 37, while Mr. Krabs was born in 1942, meaning he will be turning 80 years old next year. The age of SpongeBob's neighbor Squidward is unclear, with some claiming that he was born in the 70s, but we know that he has the personality of a man in his 60s, but then again, so do I. I relate to you, Squidward. I too hate mornings and dealing with customers. Patrick Star may be known as SpongeBob's dim-witted and fun-loving best friend, but during the early concept stages, his character was almost completely different. In fact, during early development, Patrick was somewhat of a bully, and he would pick on others weaker than him as he was apparently self-conscious about his pink coloring. Patrick was also meant to be the owner of a roadside bar, and SpongeBob and Squidward were set to meet Patrick while on a road trip, which would lead the angry bully into their lives for good. Of course, this all changed during storyboarding, and slowly but surely, Patrick turned into the character that we all know and love today. Also, fun fact, Patrick only weighs 2 ounces. Who'd have thought? Now, this next fact you might already know, but it admittedly blew my mind all over again, and that is the fact that Patrick Star and Gary the Snail are actually first cousins. When looking into their family tree, we learn that their family ties come through Patrick's grandparents, Maude Tuckett and Billy Bob Star, who had 3 children, Herb Star, Sluggo Star, and an as yet unnamed third child who parented Patrick's mustachioed cousin Ed. While Herb went on to have Patrick with Margie Star, Sluggo went on to father Gary with a lady named Miss Wilson. It was also revealed that both were descended from royalty in the episode Rule of Dumb, which makes us see Patrick and Gary in a whole new light. Does that make them princes or lords or something? Now that would be mind-blowing. SpongeBob and Patrick may get on like a house on fire, but even they get into fights now and then. A dispute between the two friends turned ugly and even physical in the episode New Student Starfish, although their fighting skills are somewhat wanting, with them swinging at each other and missing very, very badly. I wonder if SpongeBob will be Jake Paul's next opponent. What makes this scene even funnier is the fact that it was based on a real-life event, with storyboard director Kent Osborne saying that he himself was the inspiration after he got into a fight with his fellow lacrosse player Mark. The two apparently were not the best players and were egged on to fight in the locker room, until that is, the fight went down. Kent Osborne said, "We tried to hit each other, but we kept missing. Then we tried to get each other in a headlock, but it looked like we were hugging. Then we slipped on some water and both fell down. And then all the other kids stopped cheering and went outside to practice." And after hearing that, maybe they can be Jake Paul's next opponent. If you have ever wondered what drew Stephen Hillenburg to the underwater world of SpongeBob, that answer is actually pretty simple. Before starting on the show, Hillenburg originally pursued a career in marine biology, with him getting a degree in marine resource planning and interpretation. That was in 1984 at Humboldt University before teaching marine biology at the Ocean Institute in Dana Point, California. However, in 1992, Hillenburg decided to change careers and started delving into the world of animation before getting a job working in the art department as well as writing and producing for the Nickelodeon show Rocko's Modern Life. Along with some of his colleagues, he came up with the idea for SpongeBob in 1996 before successfully pitching to Nickelodeon in 1999 in a nod to his marine biologist roots after he passed away in 2018 after being diagnosed with ALS. His ashes were scattered in the Pacific Ocean about 500 yards off the coast of California. As you know, Plankton has a slight hatred of SpongeBob, and you have to wonder if that's because of his relationship with Plankton's wife. And of course, we're joking, and the relationship in question is between Tom Kenny and Jill Talley, who plays Karen Plankton, with the two being married in real life. The two met on the Fox sketch show The Edge, which started the careers of people like Jennifer Aniston and Alan Ruck, and the two got married in 1995. Both also appeared on Mr. Show with Bob and David, and it was actually while filming a sketch on the show when Kenny learned that SpongeBob would be moving forward. One of the best parts of the first Spongebob Squarepants movie was the addition of the one and only David Hasselhoff, with no one expecting the inclusion of the Hoff. But it wasn't just the audience that didn't know that Hoff would be in the movie, but the cast themselves, with Hillenburg keeping the casting a secret from the animators and writers till late in development. The Hoff also got to keep a prop from the movie, an albeit extremely creepy one, as he took home a 14-foot model of himself. The Hoff may have made a cameo in SpongeBob, but overall, Hillenburg was reluctant to have celebrity cameos. Hillenburg apparently even turned down a Justin Timberlake Flaming Lips collaboration for the movie, although Avril Lavigne was allowed to record a pop-punk cover of the theme song. Other celebrities who managed to appear in SpongeBob are Amy Poehler, Johnny Depp, Kristen Wiig, and Victoria Beckham, aka Posh Spice. As we said earlier, you'd be hard-pressed to find someone who doesn't know the name SpongeBob, and he is a pop culture sensation, so it's unsurprising that he's left a lasting impression in the real world, and the anthropomorphized sponge became immortalized in fungus form. After the discovery of a new fungi in 2011, scientists decided to pay homage to SpongeBob, naming it the very catchy Spongiforma Squarepantsy. Who lives in a coral reef under the sea? Spongiforma Squarepantsy! Yeah, it does not have the same effect, does it? The my leg fish may just seem like a quick gag, but there is actually a full backstory behind the character and why he gets injured. The fish, whose name is Fred, has had several jobs, such as a janitor for Shady Shoals and a cameraman for Bikini Bottom News. He was also a flag twirler and is married with kids, and the reason he gets injured is down to the fact that he's just very accident prone. Also, Fred is voiced by Doug Lawrence, who also provides the voice for Plankton. If you have ever wanted to go to Bikini Bottom, you might just be able to do that. Bikini Bottom is an underwater city beneath the real island of Bikini Atoll and is located in Micronesia. Although, before you rush off to buy your plane tickets, Bikini Atoll is the location of the US military's nuclear testing in the 1940s and 50s, and references to nuclear weapons are scattered throughout the show, such as the mushroom-shaped clouds every time there's an explosion. But not only is the location based on a real place, but all the things that we see on the show are based upon real things that you would see underwater due to human-caused pollution. Take, for example, the Krusty Krab, which, if you look closely, was made to be reminiscent of a lobster trap. In fact, if you put the two side by side, take out the netting of the lobster trap and replace them with windows, you can see the resemblance. Although, when you really think about it, it's a little dark that Mr. Krabs is using an item used to capture crustaceans to sell burgers, but then again, that dude only really cares about money. The Krusty Krab was also nearly called the Krusty Krab, but yeah, wait, that doesn't work when you say it out loud. So the Krusty Krab, which is spelt with two K's, was originally meant to be spelt with two C's, but Hillenburg opted to spell it with two K's. One of the facts that weirdly crushed me was learning the fact that my role model, Squidward, despite having squid in the name, isn't actually a squid, but a different type of mollusk altogether. In fact, if you didn't know, you ready for this? Squidward is actually an octopus. Squidward was originally meant to have 8 tentacles, like like a typical octopus, but found the character looked too burdened with them, and instead cut the number down to 6, but despite this, he is apparently still an octopus, and this is why I have trust issues. And finally, this isn't a fact, but there's a pretty interesting fan theory going around suggesting that each SpongeBob character represents the 7 deadly sins, with SpongeBob as lust, Patrick as sloth, Mr. Krabs as greed, and Plankton as envy, although I'm not sure what Gary would be. Still pretty interesting though, huh?